Hi there, podcast fans. I'm Tom Gibbs. Welcome to Telegraph Audio Football Club. Today, the Premier League previewing continues apace, and it's a brave new world at Chelsea who are planning to give their young players a chance and unable to sign anyone new. A familiar face in the dugout, though. It's only Frank Lampard. We ask if there are any reasons to be cheerful for Crystal Palace supporters this season, and cover Everton, who provide us with plenty to talk about, not least because of the marquee signing of Moise Kean. Leicester are everyone's dark horse for Europe, which means they'll probably finish in about 11th, and Liverpool are hoping that their current score can go one step further and win that elusive league title. Plus, we turn our attention to the Bundesliga, where Leroy Sané could replace Robben and/or Ribéry. Mats Hummels returns to a decent-looking Dortmund side, and several English players frantically learn some basic conversational Deutsch. Let's take you now into the audio recording facility where I have an unchanged lineup. So good was Monday's podcast that we've stuck with the same three people. Let's go in the reverse order to how we did it on Monday. First up, Ali Tweedow. How are you, Ali?
First up,
yes.
I'm really chuffed. I was already chuffed to be back again, but now I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Good, energised for some alphabetical fun. Alongside him, it's our friend Mina Rzouki. What's happening, Mina?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. I'm still reading from the Zidane comment yesterday, but I'm all right.
Yeah, got a little bit heated, but that's what we want. We're a club, but we want to have people,
we're
challenging
a pineapple
one
family.
Another. Oh, lovely. That's lovely. When I had my honeymoon in Vietnam, and I spelled my name with an H, as you know, and it turns out that in Vietnamese, Tom with an H means pineapple. And every time we were checking into the hotels, people were like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Tom."
That is funny though. Someone checked in here as Mr. Pineapple.
Yeah. Oh, you think Jason Lee was an alter ego? That is the voice of Matt Law. What's happening, Matt?
Mina and Ali are in exactly the same clothes as yesterday.
Lord,
come on, change clothes.
I just like wearing the basics a lot.
Something untoward has happened here. Should we level with the listener? We are recording this straight after the Monday show. Matt has tried to...
Just totally ruined this after we totally played the game. Ali was saying he's so chuffed to be back.
I'm just an honest guy. No one can trust you two anymore. I'm an honest guy. I'm in the same clothes too. I didn't change in the last 10 minutes.
News runs through Matt Law. He cannot tell a lie like George Washington. Let's start with a team Matt Law knows an awful lot about. It's Chelsea Football Club, who are now managed, Matt, by Frank Lampard.
It's Frank Lampard's Chelsea now.
Yeah, well, there was Frank Lampard's Derby last year.
Yeah, and it's Frank Lampard's Chelsea.
What did he do at Derby last year? How can we expect him to set up at Chelsea based on how he played as Derby manager?
Very high energy, very high pressing, also a little bit of counter-attack against different opposition. It's going to be extremely, almost the polar opposite to Sarri in that he changes his formations and approaches for the opposition and also within games, which of course is the one thing that Sarri wouldn't do. He's very stubborn. And, it ended up working quite well in the end in terms of their finish, but the fans didn't like it. But Lampard's very much about changing for the opposition. Already in pre-season, I've watched them a few times. They've gone 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, even 4-4, best part of kind of 4-4-2 in a sort of diamond. They've probably played 3 or 4 different formations in pre-season, and I think we're going to see a lot of change like that. But he does like a lot of energy, a lot of aggression. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Jose Mourinho influence, maybe?
A little bit. It's not a million miles away. If you watched Derby at all last season, it's not a million miles away from Jose Mourinho influence. What you might call the good days of Jose.
This
the
is
Lampard days.
This is almost how I always define Chelsea as a club that had a man in charge who was a pragmatist. The man who had lots of players, was given all these players, and he had to make do and create a formation and change it in the middle or depending on how the opponent neutralised his talent or not. And that's why I thought Maurizio Sarri was such an odd signing for them. And I thought, okay, well, here they are trying to start something new, trying to go for a style of play, but that lasted a year. So.
They don't want something new. The fans don't want something new. They like that Chelsea. They like that dogged Chelsea. I
like it too.
Energy.
I don't like philosophers. I much prefer pragmatists.
Yeah, and I think Lampard will give them that. I mean, he could get off to a very bad start and they would still be chanting his name at every game. He's got the fans for the season and beyond, whatever. It's such an interesting thing though, because the whole Chelsea, it feels like a new Chelsea at the moment. Not just manager wise, the backroom staff. All of a sudden, it's a load of ex-players. instead of these faceless guys who were coming in with different coaches who nobody knew. It's the kids because of the transfer ban and because of Lampard. Whether it works or doesn't work, it's very refreshing this summer. It feels different. It feels the fans are ready for it. I think it's a bold claim to say this, but I think the fans are ready for it even if it means no trophies or a bit of an average season. I think they're just ready for a connection again, to get behind something, to feel like there are people at that club who care about the club again, which certainly for the last two managers and their staff hasn't felt like it's been there at all.
You don't think that Antonio Conte failed?
I think Conte was always passing through. Don't get me wrong, he, especially that first season, he was very passionate. He made a connection with the fans, but it's a different connection. I think they all knew that he was passing through 2 or 3 years max. And because they'd lost that spine of legendary players who were there, whatever, they didn't feel they had anyone there who was there for Chelsea as such. The players were there for themselves, the managers were there for themselves, the backroom staffs were there for themselves. And I think they want that. They want that connection now. They want to feel that people are there because they love Chelsea. It might not work, but I personally think the fans are ready to accept that.
One of the ways you can foster that connection is seeing the youth team players a little bit more, which is something we're expecting from Chelsea this year. We had this from Musa, who got in touch via AFC podcast at telegraph.co.uk. He says, will Chelsea have a different approach to youth development in the squad now we have lost Hazard and have a transfer ban? Well,
they've got to. I mean, there's no two way around it. They definitely have. And also it's been proven in pre-season. Mason Mount's going to get a big chance and could be a very big player for them. Tammy Abraham's going to get a chance. I think Tomori might go out on loan.
You think so?
Reece James will get a big chance for sure. Callum Hudson-Odoi when he's fit again. He's not just going to throw all the kids in at once. He's not stupid. And there was still, for instance, Ampadu's gone out on loan. I think Tomori could go out on loan. So he's not going to suddenly bring them all
Andreas Christensen might get more of a chance.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And Zuma back and could well get a chance.
Yeah, but I think he should go back to Everton.
Well, I don't think he will. So, but yeah, they've got to give the kids a chance.
It's just great that Chelsea have now basically have enforced patience. They've just the most impatient club in the world, just knee-jerk reactions all the time, huge signings if something's going slightly wrong, and now they can't do that. And I do think it will benefit them. There's a chance that it could benefit these young players so much. There could be 2 or 3 of them that really push on now that they're going to be given a chance.
It's such an interesting time, though, because there was a week in the summer. I mean, I covered it all, and there was a week in the summer where they literally sold Eden Hazard and lost their manager to Juventus. And at any other club, that would be a complete and utter disaster, and it would set the tone for the summer. And yet, the summer's felt really positive around Chelsea, and it might not be because they're going to do well, but it's just about this connection again, and the fact everybody's getting behind what's happened, and everyone feels almost, even people who work at Chelsea, feel pleased that they've got a transfer ban because it stopped the noise, it stopped the chance to get tempted into making a signing that they don't actually need or that will upset the greater good, as it were.
Very relaxing having a transfer.
Wait, so hold on a second.
Very relaxing for me.
QPR had one in January last year, and it was just brilliant.
This is all a bit too zen and yoga for me. Like, oh my God, like everyone is so thrilled that we can't have a number 9, you know, like Hazard's gone. And this is what I'm interested to know because who is it? Pedro Willian alongside who? Giroud? The in and out, maybe I can score, maybe I can't. Who's exactly going to be the guy who knocks in the goals? Who's going to be the guy who provides the sparkle? Like, it's all good and well to talk about Tammy Abraham. He had a terrific season last year. We know that Hudson-Odoi is wanted by Bayern Munich. We know that he's a special talent. But you're not facing just any opponents. You're coming up against this is like a league dominated by Pochettino, dominated by Pep Guardiola, obviously Jurgen Klopp, and yes, for me, I think they've got a terrific backline, and I think that there's, when it comes to conceding goals and between midfield and defence, I think they have it. But I'd love to see who's going to score or who's going to provide the creativity. And it's all good and well and believing the fact that everyone now cares for Chelsea and we've got Claude Makelele back, we've got, you know, Peter Cech back and Frank Lampard. But is this overcorrection? Do these guys understand how to do their role? Or is it they just love the club and everyone's come back and it's all one big happy family? Because Milan brought back all their guys and nothing worked out for them. They didn't make Champions League. So I don't know necessarily whether they have just decided like, okay, well, it didn't work out with these other guys, and we tried to bring in a philosopher, and that sort of failed. So let's just go for, you know, somebody who loves the club, and we're overcorrecting. It could work out splendidly. Don't get me wrong, and somehow all the kids could score like 50 goals between them. I don't know, but I wonder sometimes whether it's just too happy that sometimes reality might be a little bit harsher, and whether or not
I think it will be a difficult season. Don't get me wrong. I think that it's not going to be easy for them, and I don't see it all working out on the pitch. I mean, they've got a very difficult start away at United, and then the Super Cup against Liverpool, and then actually playing Leicester, which is a tough match. So, you know, it could get off to a really tricky start. I'm talking about the mood more.
How long will that stay? If they start losing?
I think with the fans it will stay for a long time. I really get the sense that
so if they're 15th
willing to,
by December, they're going to still be happy.
15th, maybe not, but 8th, 9th, yes.
It's a trial, isn't it?
Mina's right, though, on the goals. Eden Hazard scored 21 goals last season. The next top scorer was Giroud on 13. Loftus-Cheek, I think, was third on 10. The goals is the issue. If he can find goals within that team, whether it be through one man, whether Tammy Abraham can suddenly start scoring a lot of goals, or whether it be through sharing them around more, they'll be fine. If they can't find the goals, it'll be very difficult for them. And this is going to contradict what I said, because I know for a fact there are people at Chelsea happy they can't sign players this summer. And it has felt very calm and nice because of that. If they had a striker, then yeah, they do need a number 9. They do need a number 9.
The point is, they were a team very much based around Eden Hazard last season, and the hope is, and what I guess people and the fans might find quite exciting, is that they're going to become more of a team this season, and the burden is going to be more spread out. They don't have a 25 goal a season striker, but maybe they've got 3 that together can score 25 goals. Tammy Abraham, Giroud and Batshuayi are all capable of scoring 8 goals.
One name we haven't mentioned yet is Christian Pulisic, who has arrived from Borussia Dortmund. How can he make an instant impact, Mina, based on what you've seen from him in Germany?
It also depends on how you're going to play him. He obviously didn't do as well under Lucien Favre as he's done under previous management, Borussia Dortmund. You have to know that he's the guy for an outlet. He's the guy that you give the ball to when you are in dangerous areas. You know, he's going to keep it. You know, he's going to dribble fantastically. So it depends on how you're going to use him. I think Pulisic just has been brought in, you know, for the fact that he is a great talent, and believe me, he's a great talent. But it's going to take a while for him to embed himself into the culture and to understanding the style of play that's being played there. Dortmund had a very clearly defined style, so it's easier to learn it than perhaps Chelsea now, which is everything's kind of new and up in the air. But it's more also about the commercial value that he brings, and the fact that he is American, and that's going to appeal and open all new barriers for them in the American market. I'm interested to see if he injects the creativity, whether we know that he's very accustomed to the pace of the game. The Bundesliga is very fast. It's all very attack-minded. So I'd like to see how it goes, but I don't want to put too much pressure on him. Like, I don't want to put too much pressure on Tammy Abraham or Hudson-Odoi. You also have to know that Hudson-Odoi, for example, he's going to come back from an injury. Is he going to be the same player? Is he going to, you know, still? How long is it going to take him to come back to doing his best again? There's a lot of question marks. It could work out really well, but I don't know.
He's from what I've seen of Pulisic in pre-season, I think Chelsea fans and people who want to judge them are going to have to get used to. He's incredibly different to Hazard. He's going to you can't help. People are going to compare him because Hazard's gone and he's come in.
Guy.
But Mina will know far better than me. But from what I've seen of him, he's not the guy who's going to be on the ball the whole time, dictating the pace of play, looking for the ball everywhere. What summed him up for me was I was at the Salzburg match last week, and Chelsea were under a bit of pressure. Barkley came extremely deep, collected the ball and literally just pinged the ball over the Salzburg defence, and Pulisic was straight onto it and scored. Very counter-attack, but that looked his strength. His strength didn't look in carrying the ball all over the pitch and getting involved everywhere and beating lots of men. His strength looked, to me, from that game and from the other bits I've seen in pre-season, of like that outlet, like that out ball. And the fact that Barkley did that made me think that they know how to play him. And I do think that certainly in the tougher matches, Chelsea will be set up in quite a counter-attacking way.
I also want to see Kovacic being given a chance too.
Lampard loves him. Lampard's spoken so highly of him.
He is, honestly, I find him to be one of the smartest players that I've watched. And I feel like wherever he's gone, he absorbs instructions really well. So if you're a new coach in Lampard and you want to rely on somebody who's going to carry through your instructions and put that into effect on the pitch, I really think that he's going to be a huge help for them. And you're right, Barkley and that kind of chemistry, that Pulisic is that guy for the outball. So again, it's how you use him.
Kovacic hasn't scored a goal for anyone for 2.5 years. I know that's not his strength, but I still find that staggering.
He was
used a lot on a defensive.
He was pretty average last season, wasn't he?
I
I'm
think
not
it's
saying
going to. I think it's
be.
going to benefit him certainly when I've seen him in the last few weeks when he started in a 4-2-3-1, and you'd imagine that'd be next to Kante, but because he's been injured, it's been next to Jorginho a lot. But that position in the sort of double pivot, 2-man, deeper man, looks better for him than in the 3-man midfield, because it doesn't put that attacking emphasis on him quite so much, where he fell down a little bit. When he gets around the box, he does tend to just shift it sideways.
They've actually got so many options in central midfield, Chelsea, don't they?
Masses. Yeah. And you've got Loftus-Cheek injured at the moment.
Loftus-Cheek still to come back.
Mason Mount.
Bakayoko
probably won't be there.
Bakayoko had a great season last year at Milan, so I'd love to see him.
He's been appalling in pre-season.
But he's
been left off their last two pre-season
He's
trips.
a notoriously slow starter.
I also, it's a big season for Ross Barkley. I didn't like how Sarri would only play Kovacic or Barkley. I don't really see why they could just literally not play together. They're not that similar. Barkley's 25, 26 by now, I think, and he hasn't kicked on in the way that we thought he was going to. Lampard would obviously know him well just from watching the Premier League and stuff. So I think it'd be really great if this was the season that Barkley could push on.
Let's hope so. Let's stay in London now and move to South London's finest, Crystal Palace. Ali, Aaron Wan-Bissaka has gone to Man United. Wilfried Zaha seemingly wants out. Let's take this opportunity to cheer up Palace fans. Can you give us some reasons to feel optimistic about this season for Crystal Palace?
Oh no, I wasn't expecting this.
Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
No, Roy Hodgson's side is going to get relegated. He's just too canny for it. Might not be that entertaining. I know the fans, like other fans around the Premier League, got annoyed, certainly with their home form last season and the fact it wasn't very entertaining. But I just don't think you're going to get relegated if you've got Roy Hodgson.
All right, Ali, give us the opposite. Why shouldn't they feel optimistic?
Well, there's still a reliance on Wilfried Zaha. If teams can stop him, then Palace have so little. I don't know if players like Maya, Benteke and Jordan Ayew, who they've made their loan permanent, have done something amazing.
Laughing at Jordan Ayew.
I don't know if they've done something.
Your question. Sorry, never mind.
I don't know if they've done something amazing in pre-season or something, but I don't know how those kind of players can convince Roy Hodgson that no other creativity is needed in that squad.
I think Roy's made it clear he would like some signings in.
This is what I think is he's like such a company man, and he came out being like, I need more than this.
I think they will. I mean, this is definitely going to be one of the clubs that we talk about where the squad might look a little bit different after we've spoken, because I think they're going to have quite a big 4 or 5 days in the transfer market.
But even so, that was obvious 2 months ago, 5 months ago.
Sure, yeah.
So why leave it till the last 3 days of the transfer window?
You're certainly not going to get value for your buck. They've still, I just feel like that forward line needs some pace, it needs something interesting, especially if they end up losing Wilfried Zaha. The fullbacks need to be looked at as well. I do think Max Meyer might have a better season now that it's going to be his second season. He's being tested, a little bit harder in preseason, and he's really, I think, excelled in preseason. So I'd love to see what he can do. But this is a team that, they finished 12th last season. I feel like they're going to be battling relegation at this point.
What about Zaha, Matt? Is there any chance that Palace can convince him to do another year? It feels now that sometimes players sort of say they want to leave and they do all this.
Well, Zaha every single year.
Yeah, but sort of safe in the knowledge that it's not happening this time, but it puts them in a good position to actually move the year after.
Zaha does it every single year and then generally ends up signing a new contract.
For 5 years.
I think it's getting too late now to do it this summer, but hey, if Man City suddenly sold Leroy Sané tomorrow, I wonder whether they might have a look at him. That's based on no information, by the way. But Zaha, it feels. I do feel sorry for him, and I don't. He signed a contract last summer. I don't think the fee that Crystal Palace are asking for him in this transfer window is overly exorbitant. I think when you see what other players are going for him, he probably is worth, 70 to 80 million. And if there was a club out there,
110 or something for him.
I don't think that's realistic that they did. I think 70 to 80 million would get him.
Just more than 40.
Yeah, exactly. More than 40 in Cole Jenkinson, which brings the value down to about 20.
That almost detracts.
But sorry, Cole Jenkinson. But Zaha, he is what he is. If they keep Zaha, Crystal Palace will stay up. He is their talisman. He does brilliantly for them. I'm not convinced that if he went to a supposed big club, that it would be the same for him. He seems to revel in being that big fish in a small pond, and certainly at Palace, where he's just an absolute hero. And he probably can get away with having a few bad games, or his goal scoring record not being as good as it probably should be sometimes. But no one will put any pressure on him for that.
Honestly, if I was Inter, I'd go for him. I don't think he should go to an English club. I think he should try to look for a transfer outside and just see what he can do in a different league, because over here you feel like it's stacked for Arsenal now in the forward line. For City too, I don't think that he's going to be a guy that makes a difference, and I think that he'll feel annoyed at sitting in the bench or rotating in a squad like that. And why not just try a new adventure? I think he's got so much skill, so much talent. He can improve his tactical knowledge a little bit more. I'd love to see him go elsewhere. And I do feel sorry for him, because I do think that he wants to move a step up, whether or not it's in his best interest, because I agree with you there. I do think that he's a guy who likes to be a big fish in a small pond.
One of the teams chasing Wilfried Zaha, Ali, is Everton, who we shall move on to now. Is that a realistic destination for a player like him, or does that feel like too much of a sideways move at the moment?
Yeah, surely he's going to be aiming higher. Didn't he say he wanted to play in the Champions League? And with all respect to Everton, they're not going to be in the Champions League
Everton, though, would be a good move for him.
Do you reckon? I don't see.
I think it would, just because what we were just talking about, he would sort of get the same thing, but whilst taking a step up still. So he would still,
very tiny step up.
But if he moved to Everton, I think he would still be the hero, and he would still find himself not a big fish in a small pond. But you know what I'm saying?
The main man.
The main man.
Everything goes to.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about the hero of the day, Mina, who was confirmed over the weekend. We spoke about him plenty last season. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Moise Kean.
Moise Kean, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get in there.
Moise Kean.
Give me until week 12 of the Premier League season and we'll get there. Everton have had a problem since they sold Lukaku. They've never properly replaced him. Different sorts of players, but is he the man to replace Lukaku, do you think?
Well, put it this way. I mean, when Juventus have been linked with this move for Lukaku and we're selling our greatest kid to this, I nearly cried.
It's a real get for Everton, isn't it?
I mean, this is a guy who's just been in terrific form. Can I just say to you that he's got the best minutes per ratio, like goals per goal to minutes? Is that how you say it? Yeah, goal to minutes. He's outstanding. He scored more goals than Paulo Dybala, that everyone in the world is now speaking about, who thinks he's such a great player and that, United should have secured. He is tenacious. He's got a lot to learn. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely not the final product, but his work ethic is remarkable. He's desperate to learn. There's been moments where he'll show up late for training, and that's something he sometimes needs to adjust. And you can just say that he's a kid, but his acceleration, his pace, he thinks he can play on, he's versatile in how he plays his football. And best thing about it is he's a great finisher for his age. And he's got ice veins. He's got a way of handling everything that's thrown at him with remarkable ease. Obviously, we know that the racism that he felt in Italy and what he was subjected to, he never did anything. Like, he was always treated.
Is that part of why he wanted to leave? Or did he?
No, he didn't want to leave.
Oh.
I think
this is a bit I'm worried about with him. It feels like the move is early for him, both in age and the amount of games he's played. And it feels like the move might not necessarily be something he's driven, which makes me worry slightly about the whole thing.
There's a difference.
Is he the new Marco Materazzi?
I think that when you think of sort of Dybala moving to United, this is almost like against his will. Like he's actually visibly being forced at that point. When you look at Cutrone at Wolves, that looks like it's one where he's just desperate to not be there, but he has to be there. With Moise Kean, I think the feeling is that he really loves Juventus, but he understands that with Ronaldo and all these different players, he's not really going to get that chance. And I do think that he, unlike all the other kids that Italy have, he's got an ego on him. And that's, I think, what makes him so special, is because he genuinely believes that he can be something special. And he wants to test himself. He has an agent who is Mina Rzouki, who's going to love to have a transfer, and sort of pocket off that. So that's going to convince him too. But he really does want to test himself out. It could be too early, but considering how well he did last season, how often Allegri depended on him in certain matches towards the end when Ronaldo was getting tired and fatigued and wasn't playing, he was relying on Kean all the time, and he was scoring in practically every match for Italy and for Juventus.
I just fear that if there's too much pressure, he's a 19-year-old moving to a different country, completely different culture, having not played an awful lot of football, especially in terms of starts, and being relied on as that main man that much. And he's going to Everton, a club who have never replaced Lukaku, who have been desperate for a striker. There is going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's going to be a lot of expectation from fans. I just hope he's given a proper chance to settle if it has a slow start, because it's a massive thing for him. I don't think we can forget that to go abroad and do this at 19 on the back of not playing much. I mean, everyone will always say Jadon Sancho, but there's more cases of kids that age moving abroad who just can't hack it, because it is a massive thing to ask of him.
At least the price is relatively low, so that in that
I don't think it'll matter though. I mean, this is,
but there's less pressure. There's less pressure on him for that reason.
There is outside Everton, but within this, Everton fans have been so desperate for a striker, and this does look like such an eye-catching signing in a way that I do think immediately he will be their hero. That could work great for him, don't get me wrong, but it will be difficult.
Heading for the exit door at Everton is Idrissa Gueye. It's Fabian Delph in as well, Ali, and I put it to you that Fabian Delph is the most Everton signing there has ever been in the history of Everton.
I'm going to say Yannick Bolasie, 25 million, more Everton.
Right.
Wingers that
don't quite kick on.
Yeah. But Fabian Delph, I like Fabian Delph. I know we've got another Fabian Delph fan in the studio, but I think he's a good signing. He's totally different to Idrissa Gueye. I do wonder if it means a change in system somehow. Andre Gomez and Delph in midfield as a two is not going to work. I think you need a holder behind that. But maybe Morgan Schneiderlin, is he still alive? Maybe Morgan Schneiderlin.
Gabamin.
Oh yeah, as well. So I think that's a good midfield. Delph isn't too old to play in the Premier League for another 4 years or something. Like, yeah, it's a good
I think it's a really good signing. It's like when they signed Gareth Barry from Manchester City. Yeah. Very similar. It's for that. It's a no-brainer. And the interesting thing about Delph, I mean, I didn't watch too much of it, but the Pep Guardiola documentary thing seemed to show that Delph was a real leader in that Man City dressing room.
Yeah, England love him, don't they?
Yeah. And
I think that's why he's been brought in.
No one could believe it, because obviously he's not a regular for City. You wouldn't have thought of him as being one of the big guys, and yet he was a real big character in that City dressing room. And England love him for that. That's the reason that, despite not playing for his club, Southgate has stuck with him, because he has him as Southgate has this sort of leadership group of 4 or 5 players, and Delph's always been in that. Again, even though he's not always playing for England, he can play in several different positions. He's a good guy in the dressing room. How much was it? 8 million or
10.
something like that?
8.5.
I mean, I think it's a great. I think it's a great bit of business by Everton.
Well, it goes against
it's not going to go wrong. It's not going to be a bad signing.
The director of football, Marcel Brands, wanted players who are around the 25, 26 mark. He didn't want to go above that. But when you have a player who represents such good value like that, whether it is 8 or 10, we don't know. But we know that he comes with a lot of experience, and why not just have a guy who's versatile in the way that he plays things? I'd love to see Andre Silva next to Jean-Philippe Gabamin. I think that that's going to be a really interesting one. I love this player. I mean, he was at Mainz. He's somebody who really knows how to recycle possession, wins back the ball, starts off attacks. I think he's perfect for the style of player that Silva wants to play in Everton. And if you have those two in midfield and then Delph can come in and out, it's not like he's going to be the man who's necessarily depended on in every circumstance. Then
Delph's 29 as well. It's not like he's 34. He's 29 and in the last 3 or 4 years actually hasn't played that much football. So
he's not exactly reliant on pace.
He should be good for 4 years, shouldn't he?
I do think they need to get Kurt Zouma back.
They're not going to get Kurt Zouma. Forget Kurt Zouma.
Kiss Zuma goodbye, Mina.
They might get Tomori, weirdly.
I think they can. I mean,
I'll have a bet with you now that they won't get Kurt Zouma. I'll bet you £1,000.
This is
Whoa.
this is the worst and nichest football bet there has ever been. You won't get odds on that.
No, but
Let's
because
move
you obviously
on.
have information that I don't.
We're not affiliated with a gambling company yet, so there's no need to be bringing betting into this podcast yet. Leicester City are the next team on the list of Premier League teams written in alphabetical order. I'm a bit worried about Leicester because everyone is saying they're going to challenge the top 6. Everyone is saying, oh, they're going to finish 6. And I think when an underdog becomes that well-backed and they're everyone's dark horses, I think it tends to go wrong.
They've just sold the best player.
He's not their best
Yeah,
player.
come on. He's
Who's
not
their
their
best player?
Vardy.
Tielemans,
Nice.
James
Yes.
Maddison.
Maguire.
They've got other centre backs though, and they've replaced big players.
I'm
before.
not sure they've got centre backs to replace Maguire unless they bring one in. I
might
think
go.
Maguire's a huge loss for them. I really do.
Lewis Dunk might come in.
Might do. Look, that bit's difficult at the moment. They might sign someone who looks a great sign. We've got to speak as we find them, and I think Maguire's a huge loss. I think Tielemans is a good sign. I'm not at all convinced by Iosi Perez.
What? Why not?
He's okay.
He's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a streaky player as well. I don't see him massively improving them.
he's not 30 million.
Look, I think they'll be good,
he?
but I do agree that I think people are maybe getting a little bit carried away with almost this expectation that, oh yeah, that they're going to be sixth or they're really going to be better than Arsenal all of a sudden. They're not better than Arsenal.
No, but I do think there's something to be said, as you said on the last podcast, recorded yesterday,
Well done,
about momentum going into a new
Yeah.
season. Leicester had that when they won the league, and Tom said on the podcast last season about how it was a genius idea to make a managerial change mid-season when for a mid-table team who've got a run the rest of the season without pressure on them. He can build a philosophy. He's got the whole summer transfer window, whole pre-season behind him, and I think there's lots of positivity around Leicester.
People are like slagging off Man United for paying the money they've paid for Maguire, but I do think Leicester, I'm not sure it makes great football sense, does business sense to drag it out to the last week of the transfer window to bring in 80 million quid, because they're really going to struggle. I mean, you know, if you go after Nathan Ake now, what do you ask for Nathan Ake knowing that they've got 4 days with 80 million quid in their pocket?
They must be convinced.
Why not do it why not do it 3 weeks ago, accept slightly less, but you've got a way better chance
I think they've
of
either
replacing him and not getting ripped off yourselves. I mean, you know, if you're Brighton with Lewis Dunk, you turn around and say, well, 60 million for Lewis Dunk.
surely they're are they not happy with what they've got then? They can just say,
Well, if they're happy with what they got, I think they're going to get a shot.
And isn't plan B, you wait, you accept you might not replace him in this window and you see how it
Yeah,
goes and then
exactly.
up again in January.
Well,
that's what I
in that
think.
case, I think you maybe get a bit of a shot. You've got rid of, okay, I think he's their best player, everyone else doesn't, so one of your best players, you've got to replace him.
How highly do you rate
Listen.
Brendan Rodgers, Mina?
A lot. I do think that, listen, there's a lot of teams who don't have great defences. One of them being Manchester United, which obviously they have improved it with Maguire. But, you know, you look at Arsenal and you look at that defence, and I don't necessarily think Leicester's worst. Also because at least their fullbacks are very good. At
Yeah,
least
they
I
are.
feel like, you know, you can really rely on those fullbacks. And I look at that midfield and I just think there's so much creativity there. And for me, I don't know whether it's a continental thing, but I do think midfield takes you further than anything else. If you have a strong midfield, it almost doesn't matter what you have elsewhere, as long as that, you know, I mean, obviously that's a Pep Guardiola thing, but it doesn't really matter as long as they work together as a unit. And you just look at that and you've got James Maddison, you've got Tielemans, you've got Mark Albrighton, you've got Harvey Barnes. I think that this is a side where if they take to what Brendan Rodgers wants to do, They could be very attacking by all means, but so are Arsenal. And then they've got the support of the fullbacks. You've got Jamie Vardy. Ayoze Perez may not be thrilling, but at least he can draw attention away and allow for more space for Vardy. And that was the whole point, right? Is like just to bring a support guy, another sacrificial lamb, if you like, the likes of Wesley for Aston Villa, maybe, you know. It's just to open up space, allow Vardy to play, and they can keep the ball now, they can counter-attack. There are different... I don't know. I believe in them. I feel like if you have a good midfield, you can go far.
Yes, well, I said I was negative about them. I think they'll be fine. I just don't quite buy this definitely finish sixth business. One team who we do all expect to do very well indeed are Liverpool, who came second last year, slightly unfortunately, on an enormous 97 points. I'm interested in how they approach this season. Do you just say, look, it's the league this year, and you actively sack off Europe and everything around it and just gear it all towards the league? Because surely the league has to be the priority for them now.
It's easy to say that, isn't it? I don't really think in reality it quite works like that. Conversely, I can't see Pep Guardiola sacking off the league for the Champions League. I'm interested by Liverpool this season because I think it is a two-horse race and I think Liverpool will be excellent. But I'm surprised they haven't done much this summer.
Yeah, question from Tom via AFC podcast at telegraph.co.uk, not from myself. I can just ask whatever questions I want. But our listener Tom says, will Liverpool's lack of summer investment come back to hurt them later on this season?
I think it could do. Not because if you pinned me down and said, what exactly do they need? They might need a little bit more in midfield or, a backup left back or whatever. On the face of it, I get that they don't really need anything, but I always feel that it's good to, even if it's just one sort of proper signing, just freshen it up a little bit. Yeah, just bring something different. And I just slightly worry that Guardiola always does that at City. No matter how good at City are, they still always do it. And they've got Rodri in this summer, which was a position that looked like they did need to do that. And you expect that Manchester City, because of that, will either be as good or better. Liverpool might be, but I just feel there's the chance there that Liverpool might not be quite so good as last season.
I think that it's a bit strange that when you look at the fact that their three forwards have been involved in so many competitions for so many seasons now, and they've had a very grueling summer, all of them engaged in competition, Sadio Mane, Firmino, and obviously Salah, then it's a little bit like, why not introduce somebody who can do something different or can replace them should they get tired along the way. We've seen how much teams have suffered with players who've played in the World Cup. And this is a side that doesn't play the kind of football in which possession dictates everything, but it is a lot based on pace. It is based on energy and dynamic play. They've tried to change that a little bit, try to be more conservative, and they'll have to continue with that because I think everyone's a little bit exhausted. But it's about, they could start really well, and they did. Obviously, we've seen them perform very well in the Community Shield. They were probably the better team overall. They certainly had a second half to remember, but I am worried that eventually there is going to be a moment where Sadio Mane is just too exhausted or Salah just can't continue this anymore because we saw how many chances he was given. And it's not like you can say, yeah, well, he's had a break for 2 months, so obviously he's not sharp. It hasn't been a break for that long because he was with Egypt not that long ago. So that worries me. And Pep always used to say when he was at Barcelona, it doesn't matter if I've won trebles, it doesn't matter whatever I've won, I need to renew the team because motivations need to be renewed, because competition needs to be important. When you take competition out of the equation and players feel like they're always short of their first place, sometimes they can just say, all right, well, this one we can slack off a little bit. And it's going to be hard, I feel, for Klopp to continue making the side or to push them forward. He has the ability to. We know he's a top manager, and I hope that he does it again to make it exciting for the rest of us. But I would have liked to see a left back. I would have liked to see another central defender. I would have liked to see a midfielder and a forward.
I think in the first 12 weeks they play all of the top six as well, whereas City only play Tottenham. So that's tough when you haven't had a break. And sorry, I won't keep interrupting you. They've got the Super Cup as well. They've got this World Club Cup. Klopp keeps referencing the fixtures and the too many games, which makes me think Klopp feels it's a valid excuse, but he needs to get an excuse in almost. It feels like he knows that this could be the thing that blows up for him.
He did also say, though, that he doesn't see a value in the transfer market, and they don't want to spend money on secondary players that are just going to be further backup players. They've got loads of backup players.
Sounds like Wenger.
Yeah, well, and it's a fair point. I think they've got a good squad. I see what you're saying about the front three, but Liverpool have also said they've given Origi a new contract not that long ago, and they've said that they've seen a different side to him, like the kind of Origi that they were convinced to sign in the first place. Oxlade-Chamberlain will be back after a full pre-season. He can play in the front three if need be. I'm definitely not pessimistic about this season.
I'm not pessimistic about them.
I don't think it could. I don't think it really will hurt them.
Klopp
there's Ryan Brewster as well. Sorry, as a forward, and his development has obviously been stunted by injuries, but he's a striker that Klopp rates highly, and he's talked about he's not sure about always giving youth a chance. So he doesn't say that, Klopp, so much, but he basically says if we fly, they fly. But with Brewster, he's almost said that he's going to be given chances over the season, and I'd like to see that. At least that's something forward.
Klopp actually reinvented Liverpool quite significantly last season. They were a lot less gung-ho last season, got a bit more solid at the back. Do we expect anything different from them this season, Ali? And were there any clues in Sunday's Community Shield?
Well, Joe Gomez starting ahead of Joel Matip, who ended the season really well for them. I think this is a big season for Joe Gomez. He's such a good player, so versatile, so comfortable on the ball, a really good centre-back. So yeah, I think so in that sense. Guessing who Klopp's going to play in central midfield is impossible. Was impossible last season, and it's even more impossible this season. Maybe Naby Keita's going to play a bit more of a role. When will James Milner's career look anything like ending? Literally no idea. He's going to carry on forever. Yeah, I do agree. I do think they're going to be more defensively solid. Just with Van Dijk. Van Dijk makes the rest of the defence look brilliant, improves the players around him. And I think Joe Gomez will really benefit from that.
But what I thought that you learned from the Community Shield was that you can have Van Dijk and you can have a great back line, but unless the entire team presses like they did in the second half and play that game and play as a unit, then defence will suffer even if you have the best performers in the world. So it's about, I'm interested to see the energy levels, because we saw Dortmund wane off. We saw they got exhausted towards the end of Klopp's tenure over there. And I want to know what's going to happen this season.
On the other hand, they've won the Champions League. They've got this enormous monkey off their back that they couldn't win a trophy, and they'll be going into the season flying, full of confidence.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it sounds like we're being really pessimistic, but I fully expect it to be a battle between the two. I fully expect them to be largely excellent. It's just all I'm judging them against is, do I think they're going to get past City? And that's why I'm a little bit worried that there hasn't been any refreshment when there has been in the City squad. And they were so good last season. It'll be so interesting to see whether that was their maximum. I mean, can Van Dijk get even better? Can Milner keep going when they need him? Or is he now going to, go over the edge of the cliff a little bit? That's the thing for them. Can you get another 2 or 3% out of these players? Or was that it last season? And that's what we're going to find out.
You're listening to the Telegraph Audio Football Club, part of the Telegraph Podcasting Network. To find more of our podcasts, just go to telegraph.co.uk/podcasts.
Well, that is some absolutely lovely polka music from the top German beat combo, Ralph and Jürgen. Brilliant clarinet work from Jürgen especially, which tees up a song for Europe about the Bundesliga, Mina. We have Bayern Munich, favourites to win it again, surely. But they're seeing off two of their longest-serving inspirational players, Robben and Ribéry. Potentially in for Sane, but he got injured in the Community Shield, so we're not quite sure what's going on with that. Would he be a good replacement for them and a good signing for them, or will they be looking elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely. I think that for them, he's looked at as the ideal signing, and I don't think there's a single pundit in Germany or former player of Bayern Munich who hasn't come out and said that he's perfect. Niko Kovac himself has come out and said that he's the ideal player for them. I think that when you are a team that has so heavily relied on two excellent wingers all your life, you would like to go for a German player. You would like to go for a player who's close to being almost perfect. He has a few issues, but if his team is built around him and everyone believes in him in a country that idolizes him, then I think that he's the perfect signing. You have him, you have Kingsley Coman, you have Davies, Alphonso Davies. There's so much there that I'm interested to see.
Meanwhile, at Borussia Dortmund, Sancho picking up where he left off with a goal and an assist in the Super Cup final. With plenty expected of him this season. But what about Mats Hummels, Mina? He's done the rarely spotted Bundesliga reverse ferret, returning to Dortmund from Bayern Munich. Does he still have much to offer?
I think this is really interesting, actually. Matt Hummels basically went up to the management of Bayern and was like, so what's the status quo? What's going to happen next season? And they're like, well, we've invested in our back line. We brought in the likes of Lucas and stuff, and you'll have to challenge for your place. And he goes, yeah, I'm not up for a challenge, so I'm out. And they actually admitted that. They said, and Niko Kovac came out and said, well, we told him what the status quo is, and he wasn't interested in challenging. And he goes to, and the whole point of Dortmund last year was everyone was saying, was there enough experience in that back line? So he offers that. But I'm interested also for Dortmund in many ways, because obviously they won the Super Cup and Jadon Sancho was terrific once again. It's almost like when Jadon Sancho is this good, it's good that Pulisic left and has joined Chelsea. He is extraordinary to watch, but the amount of sort of mistakes that Niko Kovac made with Bayern makes me think that perhaps Dortmund have a chance this season, which is something they couldn't do last season. They have a year in now. They understand the opposition a bit more. And it just looks like Niko doesn't actually ever learn from his mistakes. It's always with the 4-3-3. He still thinks Thiago Alcantara is an actual defensive midfielder, and he just isn't. And unless he fixes these tactical issues, I don't care if he brings in Leroy Sané, if he brings in the world's greatest wingers, but he's not going to resolve the matter, because defensively they are still poor and they still don't have the balance that they require.
Finally, Mina, been a bit of an exodus this summer from England in players heading to Germany. Lookman from Everton has gone, Reece Oxford from West Ham, and Ethan Ampadu on loan from Chelsea. What's the view of all this in Germany? It seems like we're not so far from the days where we were trying to copy Germany with everything we did here. And is Germany now looking to England for inspiration?
Yeah, very much so. I think that they've noticed that English players have done really well in Germany, that they play a similar style of football, at least the onus is on attacking as much as possible. And that England has a lot of good kids that want to play, that have the desire to excel. Lookman was excellent before in his stint when he was there. I think he had like 5 goals in 11 appearances, and he was just he was tremendous for them. So it just made sense that he would go back there. He understands the league. He knows how to make an impression. Same thing with Reece Oxford, is Augsburg. He loved it when he was there. He said he felt really comfortable in the city, and they feel a lot of connection with the fans. Everyone loves them. It's a similar atmosphere to England in the sense that the stadiums are full. It's not like going to Italy where you're just like, why is there one person in the stand? They have this affiliation and a similar style of play. So I'm interested to see how that's going to go, especially for RB Leipzig.
Sehr gut, Mina. Danke. No German back for me. Shocking.
I have no danke. Schatzi? No.
Schatzi?
My treasure.
Oh. Delightful. A delightful way to end. That's your lot for today. We'll be back tomorrow, which is Wednesday, of course, provided you are listening to this on a Tuesday, which you are legally required to do. We will be covering Manchester City through to Sheffield United in the show on Wednesday, which is basically another 5 teams in alphabetical order. You're getting used to it. Very well done. Contact me on Twitter if you'd like to before then. It's @Tom with an H. Gibbs. The email address, as you've heard already, it's afcpodcast@telegraph.co.uk, and we'll read out the best of what you send us. Don't forget to subscribe to Audio Football Club. Leave us a review as well. Why not? It's really helpful for us. More people get to hear the podcast. The club grows. Everyone's happy. Thanks to Joel Grove on the buttons, and thanks to you for your company. I'll talk to you again soon.